My name is Shamananda, and I'm with Mr. John Atkinson.
Hi, everyone. How's it going? Excited to start another new week, a new month here. June 1st, you guys, episode 17. Can't wait to start and the second half of this year to be with you guys, to serve you even better than we did serve you in the first half of this year. So, this episode is all about casting a vision for your life. And what better way to start off the second half of the year about talking about casting a vision for yourself. Having clarity on your life is empowering. There's a saying that people don't lack motivation, they just lack a vision. So I thought, Guru, we start out, this second part of this year talking about casting a vision and what we think about it, how it relates to the four bodies. And so I just wanted you to touch on real quick, how does casting a vision impact the four bodies?
Okay, hold on one second. I'm just doing the ashwagandha here, so I can do this live with you. Gotta chew it really well with the gummies, like this. Everyone's gonna say, Shamananda high today? No. No, it's not that. I'm just really wanted the ashwagandha. Okay, so as I chew.
Mhm.
So we were talking about vision.
Yeah,
I
casting the
know that I know
vision.
that you had something specific in mind with this. So I'd really love to hear. I mean, how do you teach vision? Because you're in management. I'd like to know how you teach vision to your employees, or the people that you work with, or how you project your own vision outward. And then I'd love to jump into the conversation.
Yeah, I love that question. I think, with my 9 to 5 or even with my business, casting the vision is super important. So how I do that is finding out more about the person. A vision ties into a person's goals too. And so, say for someone that on the management side want, or someone that works for myself wants to move up in the company, and maybe they're new, is how can I put them in positions to grow, and how do we monitor their growth, right? And so typically what I love to do and how I even run my life is by 90 days, so a 30, 60, 90. And so um, and then also a long-term one would be every 2 years, because I think 2 years you could accomplish great things, and it gives you a time to build and also move the needle as fast as you want. And as pivots come, it's easy to cast a vision over 2 years. Obviously, sometimes people are like, what's your 5 year plan? What's your 10 year? And I think it goes back to my sporting days. And in 2 years, you could do a lot in 2 seasons. So I like listening to people. What are their goals? What I think when it comes to Vision Guru, it's like what truly excites someone. So it's a lot of listening. It's okay, you want to move up to become an order writer. So what that means is you get a certain section and you're going to be writing that order. Well, we're not just going to put you in that position right off the bat and expect you to know what to do. You got to become basically an all-star. And what I mean by that is you're going above and beyond the minimum requirements of your job duties to be able to live out things that are out of those job duties, but you're living those out. So when you do step into the role, you're already you're already doing that. And what I mean by that is maybe you're getting mentored by an order writer, or you're asking good questions. I think so many times people just want to clock in, clock out in the 9 to 5. They don't want to grow. Maybe they're on a good wage. Maybe they think they're doing everything. I was talking to someone about this, and it made me crack up because people use the line, well, well, I'm doing everything. And I'm like,
Oh
well,
God, that
if
one.
you, if
Ah!
you were, yeah, if you were doing everything, wouldn't you already have it? You know?
Yeah,
And so it's easy to think you're doing everything, and I think it's a pivot. It's sometimes what we've talked about in the past is a victim mindset of, but I'm doing everything, and why isn't this happening? And that's in the downward victim position. What rather than owning it and be like, hey, I'm not doing everything. This is what I'm doing. How can you help me bridge that gap? And I love working with people like that because they're honest. They're honest about their growth. Uh, and they're also too they're upfront and honest about what they're really good at and what they need to improve. So I think putting someone in a position, a heightened position, that's not qualified to do that, that only hurts the whole, company or the store or, the collective as well. I think there's a lot of times we see that, and people sometimes complain like, oh, that person got promoted and they're not capable. How many times do we hear that? And sometimes it's true and sometimes it's not. It's sometimes that's comes from a victim mindset as well, on judgment. So first I like listening to what they're excited about, because that means they have a vision, meaning they're excited about growth, they want to improve, and also too, they're open to honest feedback. When you give honest feedback, if someone gets defensive, they're not open to growth, right? And
right.
so ongoing conversation of, hey, if you want to really commit to this, I'm going to commit to your growth too. And this is a partnership. This is a team effort between you and I and my superiors or the crew or things of that nature. So it's not just you walk in and you're going to get a promotion type of thing. And then in terms of the vision, if like say they don't want to grow, because someone might be tuning in and being like, hey, I'm super happy where I'm at in my level, but I still have visions. I think that's still great. I think the beauty of, being in a leadership position is uh, walking people through their process, right? And knowing still what their goals are. Maybe they don't want to be an order writer. Maybe they don't want to have that next step or that next layer on their job title, or maybe they don't want extra pay, or they just want to be like, hey, I just want to get my standard raise of being a employee at the baseline position, but I deserve a raise if I hit these requirements. So just making sure they're on point, giving them feedback if they're open to it. And then also too, when it comes to feedback, because we do it like every 6 months, people get reviews. I think that's the most important thing. So if you're tuning in, I think on an individual scale, if you're a lot of times people go, I'm doing everything. Why is it? They don't take stock in their growth, or they don't take the time to review even their day, even their month, even their 3 months or 6 months. Like one of the things that I do on my winding down time is reviewing my day. What were some of the highlights? Like I think of like again sports or like news. Like what were the highlights of your day, right? And then what were the not so good moments that maybe would make the news? Like maybe you got angry at someone or you acted out or you got triggered. That's where the work comes in for the next day. And then maybe a good highlight was, hey, you didn't you gave someone money to do something, or whatever the case may be. There's always that reflection. That's been one of my strengths throughout my life, is just really reflecting on how am I doing, checking in with myself. And I also like to do that when I work with people. With my business, it's more entrepreneurship minded, and so I don't come at the and I don't even do it with the 9 to 5. I don't come at a level where it's like, I'm the boss, this, you got to do this and this and this. It's that teamwork and partnership of really listening to that person. And I always ask them, like, okay, great. Well, do those actions add up to your vision? And how can we map it out in goal form? So, how can we, over the next 30 days, if you want to, make these certain amount of sales, hit these milestones, how many conversations you have to have. You know, it's breaking it down in the micro and the macro. And so it's really the great leadership of leading yourself, um, and casting that vision, dependent on the person, right? And some people, like we've talked about, Guru, it's like some people are super difficult because they don't just want to show up. They don't want to do much. They don't, you know, so it's hard to really, one, be there to listen, two, you know, help them out if they're trying to ask for help. You know, I kind of shy away from those people because it's to be honest, it's a waste of time. You know,
Yeah.
it's not a waste of time in terms of giving up on someone, but if they're using words like, "Hey, I'm doing everything," you know,
Yeah.
I'm XYZ, why am I not getting the result? I'm like, well, if you look at anybody in that position, you know, the average time frame is this. You've only been doing this. And I think it goes back to our society. We live in such a carbonated lifestyle of like, why aren't things happening? I deserve this. I'm like, you're comparing this to people that have been doing work for 10 to 20 years, you know, and or hey, I deserve this pay. It's like, well, maybe you need to look yourself in the mirror and see, or ask better questions, or get some honest feedback of where you're at. So,
It's
uh,
really interesting, John, because
yeah.
I had there is, I just had a client talking to me about this specific thing this week. So, just without revealing any real information, this person works in an industry where works she works with people who are older, but she works with a lot of people who are, just very early 20s. Now, I'm not saying that. I definitely just caveat right now, right at the get go, if you're in this age bracket, I'm not talking about everyone. I'm
Mhm.
definitely not talking about everyone. There's plenty of fresh 20-year-olds that are fantastic in the workforce. So what I'm about to say has nothing to do with you. Just clearly, there is a certain type of people that a lot of that is common uh, with 20-year-olds nowadays in certain types of workforces, um, where there's no accountability for what's being created. There is a, hey, I know I'm working for money, but what else are you going to do for me kind of
Mhm.
attitude. And I've heard it time and time again. I've heard it at least a dozen times in the last year, where somebody will come with a story with where they're working and saying, every this is the age bracket. Everyone there, nobody wants to work. If they do, they have to be bribed to work and to stay and do a good job. And if so, it's very difficult to get them to do quality work just for the fact that they're getting a paycheck. And a lot of it has to do with, you know, a lot of what's in the gap is accountability. So getting them to be accountable for their output and their actions and what they're creating based upon their consciousness and how they see everything. Everything is everyone else's fault. So there's no understanding of, well, I live in this world, I coexist with you, and I'm co-creating the situation. So I have a part to play in what's being created, and you have a part to play, and it's resulting in this nebulous thing that we created together. And so I played a role, and you played a role, and I get to look at the responsibility that I had in creating this, no matter what it was. And that concept doesn't happen. That realization doesn't happen. And so a lot of people are having really terrible struggles with it. And some people have been working in the industries hiring young people for decades, and they say it's the worst it's ever been right now.
Mhm.
There's something about it that it's worse, than they think that it might have had something to do with the fact that a lot of people were in isolation for a couple of years and things changed right afterwards for the worse. So, which for me is really frustrating to hear. Uh, so there's sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes when I work with people of that age, I get a lot of that energy as well, where they don't understand what accountability is. They don't understand how to process their feelings, which is fine, but it's like it was never taught, and it's worse than ever. And I don't blame the young people. I blame how I'm not even blaming really, but I think it's a construct of how society is teaching our young people how to live. There's no emotional intelligence discussion or uh, I don't want to say training, but there's no way there's no one implementing this kind of consciousness um, teaching anywhere in schools. In programs really for young people, they're not being set up to win. I don't think it's their fault. I think it's our fault because we haven't allowed that type of information to be readily available, and I feel like how it's being taught to, and the teachers, not all of them, but there's quite a few that lack that ability to do it too, and so it's kind of coming from both ends, and it's creating a really big mess. So what you're
Mhm.
describing is a very common scenario all the way across the board in all these different types of industries, and it's really, really very frustrating. And then I'd like to add to that when it because I do want to talk about vision, and part of what I did for a very long time was I was when I was a mentor for in different leadership programs, teaching about how to what your vision is, how to instill vision, how to teach other people your vision, how to get other people excited about your vision, how to pull other people's visions out of them so they understand what their vision is. It's a whole thing, and there's a lot of different ways to do it. And I train business CEOs and leaders how to find their vision, how to cultivate it, how to expand it so that they can push that out, and they can become more profitable, and they can become more successful than they are. So it's part of what I do. So it's actually a very important subject for a lot of
Mhm.
different reasons. But anyway, so that's
Yeah,
where I'm at with that.
I love that, and it's vital too. Also, you highlighted it in a great way is the mentorship, right? As being the elders or been through life is I view those positions as mentoring, and I think even when I look around at my peers, meaning the ones that have been in companies or been in this, they don't even want to share what they've learned. And so I like how you highlighted that because it's a double-edged sword of working side by side, but also sometimes having the attitude too, as people that have experience people write people off so fast, and that's a very dangerous way and dangerous mindset that I've seen throughout my career, um, in the business is people write off of like, "Well, you can't give me the results, so I'm gonna move on," or "You can't get I can't get any output from you, so I'm gonna move on to someone that's gonna give me output." And I think that's really dangerous to have that view, in leadership positions, and seeing that, I'm like, "Whoa," because I was out of the corporate for, like, a year and a half, and coming back into viewing how leaders lead is people are very quick to write people off. Obviously, if there's evidence behind it of this person doesn't wanna engage, this person doesn't wanna even try, but how well did we set ourselves up to work side by side? I think you brought up a good point of the world being shut down. What was their family life back home, And some of these kids have had some miserable times because of the pandemic and the shutdowns of being in toxic family environments. So then when they get out, they don't have that self-belief or self-confidence. And also too, when it comes to like my business, and when I'm mentoring people, is no one's ever really believed in them. And that makes me sad because I'm like, dang, these people are young or even maybe they're older too, they've come this far in their life and no one's truly believed in their skill set, who they are as a person, and that has hindered their vision or to have a smaller vision because they don't have the self-confidence, two, they don't have anybody that has empowered them to live out their vision. And I learned recently, and I've done this before, even the soccer days that I had, is being able to, if someone's not confident in their vision, is to share a vision of, hey, this is what, I'm working towards, and then sometimes they adopt it for a little bit until they get their own vision and they're like, John, I'm doing XYZ, or I'm sure you get this all the time, Shamananda, I'm doing XYZ now, like, I'm so glad you shared, serving the collective more, I'm doing XYZ. Oh my gosh, I've been successful CEO, but I'm allocating time to nonprofits or giving back, and oh my gosh, my company's like flourishing. So it's a great topic, you guys. I'm so glad, we're starting off the second half of this year with that. Why So, Guru, in terms of the vision and your background, why is it important to have a vision for our life, for our relationships, family, jobs, and business?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's looking a little short in the frame here. Bring down the camera a little bit. Um, Part of the reason why it's important to have a vision is because if you don't have a vision, then you're not really going anywhere. You know what I mean? The vision
Uh-huh.
is the idea or concept to offer the universe to help co-create a future for you. So if you don't have a vision or you don't have goals, then you're not going to go anywhere. You're just going to hang out and be exactly who you are right now, never evolving, never changing, never growing. And part of life, the reason why we're here is to continue to grow. I mean, if you're not growing, you're dying. So a vision really creates a precedent, and it sets you up to win for the future. So it allows your unconscious mind to start creating possibilities about how that's going to come into fruition. I mean, you're a creator. We're all master manifestors. So if you don't have anything that you're thinking about creating, then you're going to swelter. You're not going to create anything that's worth having. You're going to create the things you're perseverating on, and maybe those things aren't great. You could be creating more of the things you're worried about. So if you're worried about lack of abundance, then maybe that's what you're going to create more. It's like, I'm not creating anything good. Look, I'm creating poverty. Well, what are you focused on? And what's your vision? Well, I don't, what do you mean? I'm worried about my money. Well, yes, okay, that's great that, you're aware of that. But are you creating possibilities? Are you focused on the solution? And are you creating a vision for the future that will that'll give you goals to get to? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, so without that in all of the areas of your life, you're not going to be actually going forward. You're not going to be doing anything. So it's absolutely imperative to create a vision about who you're aspiring to be. So, and I continue. It doesn't matter where you're at. I continue to do that every single day. Every single day, I wake up in the morning and I say, how can I be greater love today? What can I
Mm-hmm.
do today that will be greater love than I did yesterday? How can I shift? What can I challenge within myself to support in my own growth so that I can expand and go beyond? So the whole point of this lifetime is for us all to go beyond,
Mm-hmm.
and meaning to expand, to grow, and and that's my lately that's been my favorite catchphrase. Like, how are you going to go beyond right now? What are you going to choose that's going to expand you to the maximum of what you can possibly be in this lifetime? That's
Mm-hmm.
all that matters. So if you're not doing that, then and you don't have a vision, then you're standing still and you're stagnating, and the things that everything that anything that does that, anything that stagnates in this lifetime, you become a cesspool. It's bacteria gets all over it. It's like you get eaten alive by the things around you, people, situations, chaos. So if you're in stagnation and chaos is happening to you, then that's why. So if you have that forward movement, nothing's going to stick to you. All you're going to be doing is creating the vision, and that's what you're supposed to be doing. So a lot of the people who have a very clear vision and they're moving towards their goals and they're focusing on the solution, and they're creating possibilities, like, wow, they're really successful. How are they getting there so quickly? Why can't that happen to me? Well, look what they're doing. If we're just looking at simple stagnation and we're looking at, what they're creating in their life and what their focus is, it's easy to see why. So if you're going to sit there and choose stagnation, you're going to, the chaos will descend and start eating. That's what wolves do, or coyotes in the wild. If you're a little bunny sitting out in the field and you're just sitting there going, yeah, I'm just going to hang out, eventually the coyotes are going to find you and they're going to eat you. But if you're a bunny creating possibilities, so going to jump down that rabbit hole, going to go over here. Oh, going to go visit my friends, in the rabbit den way over there, and you're continually moving. Then chances are the wolves or the coyotes aren't going to find you as quickly, right? But if you're sitting duck, you're sitting duck. Energy does that to you. It'll eat you alive. So keep moving, create your vision, and move forward. That's the way it should be.
So good with the bringing up being stagnant. I think so many times, or people use the word, hey, I'm in a rut, things aren't happening to me. Why? They start asking these questions. So can you touch on, like, I know we've talked about this before, the tangibility of the four bodies. How does casting a vision for, first off, having a vision, and how that correlates to all four bodies, but also to, can you break down having a vision for each of the four bodies as well?
Sure. Well, and I can tell you how your vision might even affect the four bodies too. And it doesn't matter what the vision is. So let's say your vision is to be, almost every single person will always say, I want to be more abundant. Almost, unless they're really wealthy and they're like, but even those people are like, yeah, more flow is always a good thing. So abundance, and I'm not just talking about money, I'm talking about everything that's abundant, great relationships, great opportunities, great experiences, that kind of thing. So abundance comes in a lot of different ways. So let's say it's about creating abundance. So let's say in your physical body, part of what's holding you back is that you're not healthy. You're not eating the right foods. You're not exercising. You don't have the strength to actually create any kind of physical activity that would allow you to enjoy life. It's hard. Like it's contradictory too to moving forward and growth. So moving forward and growth would literally be you being active in your body and creating a health so you can reach the optimum. So in order to reach the optimum in your life, each of your bodies gets to be in an optimum state. So with your body, you get to look at exercise, and you get to look at eating right and drinking enough water, and making sure that your body's healthy, and going to the chiropractor and doing all the things that are going to keep you in top-notch shape. Are you putting the things in your body that you need? And it's what you need isn't going to be the same as what everybody else needs. So you got to pay really close attention and learn. You might not learn that on the internet. You might get to find it somewhere else, and maybe for you it's very specialized because everyone's different. So find out what it is and be proactive, and if you're abusing yourself with some sort of substance, if it's food, if it's chocolate, if it's drugs, if it's vaping, I mean, what is it? What's your vice? What are you doing that you're hurting yourself with? Stop. It's not going to push you into an area of excellence. It won't. So if you're really wanting that in your life, you got to stop. So there's that. And then if you're going to optimize your mental body, then it's going to be about your thought processes. So what parts of your thought processes are and aren't working? So get in there and start writing down the different thought processes that are getting you from point A to point B, and seeing which ones are working and which ones aren't. Write it out like a chart. So, hey, so when I get upset, I pout, and then I get really angry at someone, and then I yell at them, and then they stop talking to me, and then I ignore them for 5 days, and then I go back and I talk to them again. Like, write down the pattern. Write down the pattern of what happens. And then if you really think that's an effective pattern, I guess keep it. It's all up to you anyway, how you're going to change your consciousness to suit you. So, but if you feel like it could use an upgrade, then at step 1, do something different and decide to follow a different pattern. Like, instead, I'm going to reconstruct what I do. Instead of getting upset, I'm going to internalize, go through the process of figuring out why I'm upset, doing the work on myself, being accountable for what I created, and then I'm going to apologize for the other person for getting upset to begin with. Like, I'm sorry, this is why I did it. I hope we can move forward. From now on, you can count on me to be different, and this is what I'm going to do. I mean, that would be a higher choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then emotionally, it's about cleaning up your emotional state. So if you're getting triggered every 5 minutes by different things on the outside, write them all down. It's okay to be triggered. There's no shame in that. And that's actually a key. Don't shame yourself for anything that you're going through ever, ever. Like nothing. None of this you should be shaming yourself for. It's so if you're being accountable for, hey, I've been arrogant, I've been jealous, I've been angry, I've been whatever. Don't shame yourself for any of it. It's human. It's okay. Just recognize it first, take ownership, and then decide if you want to keep it, because
Mm-hmm.
that's the responsible thing to do. So go in there and emotionally figure out how you're being triggered, and keep a list, and then do the work and go in there and look at why you're being triggered for all these things. Journal it out. You know, get a therapist. Talk to your therapist. Talk to your friends about it. Just start processing it and figuring out why you're getting emotionally triggered, and then let it go. Take ownership of it and start letting that go. Because if you don't, it's just going to keep coming back, and it's going to get worse, and you're going to create a lot of problems. So processing is a whole nother. I mean, we could talk for 10 hours about that one. So, and how to break down this information. So that needs to wait. but but and then of course spiritually is the toughest one for people to figure out, because it's so intangible. And people, like, how do I clean up my life spiritually? I have no idea. Well, it's because no one really understands the spiritual body. I mean, there's some people that do, but it's the least known body on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
It's the least known because it's the most intangible. It's shrouded in mystery, because it's like, well, how do you even discern what the spiritual body is? Is it all a story? Is it all made up? No, it's not. But it is about finding the right information. It is about discovering who you are as a spiritual being. And once you actually have experiences, you understand what it is. And it's not fake. It's not BS. At that point, it's real, it's tangible, and it's concrete. But it takes time to get there and wade through the crap that everyone tells you on the internet until you discover what it actually is. And so purifying your spiritual body, uh, you know, is a lot about purifying the rest of it so you can even get to the spiritual body to begin with. But making sure that you're meditating, and that your intentions are pure, and that you're visualizing the right things to open things up and to purify, that your desire has to do with going beyond, and being a good person, and being embodying love, and coming to a place of peace with everything, so that you can sit in the stillness, in the void, sit in that peace, and then understand who you are, because it is within that quiet space that you'll actually hear who you are for the first time. You're not going to hear it until then. You got to get rid of all the noise first. You got to purify all the bodies first to know who you are to begin with. So the spiritual body is the hardest for that reason. Anyway, so that's part of the path. It's something that I feel like I need to write in a book, so that
Mm-hmm.
people can follow it, because it's a lot of information, but it's very, very dense, tiny, tiny version. So hopefully that was supportive.
And it's a lot of good steps, you guys, to show a tangible way to work on the four bodies and work on your vision. Guru, I liked how you said, like, each person's different, like even from the physical to the spiritual body. And I view each and all of us like a puzzle. Each puzzle piece is different, and each way of life is different too. So just being open to that, everyone, of just because your way is working out doesn't mean it's going to help someone else. And just being also open to new ideas of how you can grow, how you can improve, and be tangible that way too, and being open minded. So I
Yeah.
want to ask you this: when a client comes in and says, like, I'm lost or I'm empty, is it mostly because they lack vision of their life, or is it more like deeper sacred wounds of trauma?
If they're not happy,
Just like if they don't have a lot of direction, maybe they're lost. I know a lot of people that I've talked to, they're like, I don't know, the direction of my life. There's so much chaos going on. In terms of vision, is it because they lack a vision, or is it because so many things are happening to them that they're kind of getting bogged down with traumatic things?
it's a complex question because people come in for so many different reasons, and it's really hard to encapsulate all of that into one statement. But I can say this: uh, I think it all shows up in a varying degrees depending on the person. So I could say that lack of vision definitely contributes to people's unhappiness. There's no doubt, because if you really don't know where you're going or why, you're not going to be happy anyway. I mean, every people are happier when they feel as though they have a purpose. So if you lack purpose and a vision, it's the same thing pretty much. Then you're going to feel like your existence is pointless. I mean, you're not going to want to. You're not going to want to. What's going to cause you to want to get up in the morning?
Mhm.
So some people get so attached to their vision and it has to be just quite right. And I've seen people drive themselves bonkers and absolutely miserable when they don't get it exactly the way they want it. And that's just control. I mean, really, that has to do with really not being flexible enough to understand that maybe there's something else out there that will make you happy. So maybe the world is trying to offer you something that might be cool that you hadn't considered. So it's good to be flexible and to be open. When it comes to relationships, I've seen a lot of different women who this has happened on numerous occasions where they would always go out and date the same person, and then if we're just looking at a traditional man-woman relationship, so it would be so I would date the same man. They would say I would date the same man over and over and over again. And finally, I took a chance on somebody that was a little bit different, someone I wouldn't ordinarily pick. And as soon as they say that, I know where they're going, right? I know what they're about to say. And that's the man I married and who I'm really happy with. And we've been married for, 25 years or something. It always
Mhm.
happens. It always happens. Because a lot of the time when women get stuck on who they think, if they want to be with a man, if the type of man they want to be with actually isn't jiving with them. Like they have this idea, but that idea, when it's put into play, doesn't make them happy. And what
Mhm.
makes them happy is something that they're not aware of. And so then they take a chance and date something different. And at first they're like, I don't know, it's kind of different, you know? And then after a while, it grows on them to the point where they're like, this is the best relationship I've ever had in my life. I hear
Mhm.
it every time. So
Mhm.
the flexibility in those types of situations is really good. When it comes to vision, I'm not talking about, throwing out aspects of your vision that'll cause you to step out of integrity, like this person abuses me, or this person is bringing me down to the point where I'm going to be destitute, or this person does a lot of drugs, they want me to do heroin, should I stay with them? Not like that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about maybe they don't have the body type that you would usually be attracted to. Maybe they're not as tall as you'd usually want. Maybe they are of a different ethnicity than you'd usually go for. These types of things. These types of things mean nothing. Like, I know that people get attracted to them, and that's I understand it, I respect it. But that doesn't change the fact that maybe that soul is exactly the soul that is going to make you happy. And I swear to you, I've seen it so many times where that is the case, where it's like this I never ordinary like I learned how to love. I changed my mind about body types. I've changed my mind about ethnicity. I've changed my mind about whatever. Fill in the blank. Because of this person is so incredible. So anyway. So I
So
think yeah.
true. I love that. I think it's so good to bring those things up and being open-minded to, because I think in the earthy life people get so rigid, like you brought up, and it just doesn't have to be about relationships. It could be about their job or their pathway or friendships or even their family members, the family relationships change all the time too. So I'm glad you brought that up and said it in a way that people can really relate to. So I love that. Why do you think people feel lighter when they have a clear vision and can work toward it, or live by that vision?
I think it pulls people out of chaos, and it causes it causes people to have a clear path to towards something that is continually allowing them to grow and will hopefully cultivate happiness. So if their vision is something that will cause them to feel more fulfillment, they're naturally going to feel happier and lighter because they're moving towards something. They're not in stagnation. Yeah, it would just it would naturally lend itself to people feeling as though uh, they're doing what they're meant to do in this lifetime, and that would cause light for anyone, because everyone is almost every single person I've ever talked to. Really, they have this. They need to know uh, why they're here, what their purpose is, so that they can feel fulfilled, so they can have a purpose. And when they lack purpose, they're very depressed. So
Mm.
if they're moving towards something that brings them joy or something that fills them with passion or gets them excited, yeah, they're going to feel lighter. They're going to feel like they're moving towards something that means something, and
Mhm.
and that's important for everyone. So it definitely lends itself to the lights inside.
Mhm. I love the clarity aspect to casting a vision. And as we cross halfway through 2023, why is it important to reflect on our vision, or our year or progress? Just really, I think, like, check in with ourselves. Why is it important, not just halfway through the year, just to do that more often?
Well, I think part of the reason why it's important has to do with understanding your output better. Understand what you're creating so that you can continue, like wash, rinse, repeat kind of thing. You can know what's working, what isn't, for one. But also, understanding your output is one of the most important aspects of consciousness to continue to elevate that you can do. So if you don't know what you're creating on the outside, if you don't understand how you're co-creating with other people, what you're responsible for, then you're gonna get stuck. You are at one point you're gonna get stuck, and it's gonna create a lot of problems for you. But so if you can acknowledge and see what your output is and see what your results are, you can measure those results and decide how you're going to leverage that to do better. It's a great way to understand, like, hey, so I did A and B and it created C, so I want to do something better. This is what worked. This is what didn't. So I'm not going to do the things that didn't work anymore. I'm going to continue to do the things that work and try new things to try to see if I can make things work better. And then
Mhm.
you keep analyzing your results until you get to where you want to go, and hopefully continue to go, because you've never arrived. The minute you think you've arrived, you've lost. It doesn't matter what position you're in, you get to keep growing in order for you to stay happy. So measuring results is a really great way to understand how to continue to improve your life.
Mhm. It's so good. And how do we live in a world where people are like, maybe they say, "Hey, I don't have time to reflect or reset or even think about my progress." They get it in their head a lot. I know people that do that with business, with their families. Like, I'm on go mode all the time. I don't have days off. Whatever the stories they play in their head or play out. How do you help clients or just people in general or the collective really slow down and have those moments of reflections? Or what type of advice would you give to our viewers in terms of how to create that?
Well, for one, if we're being really transparent, anyone that says they don't have time to reflect upon their output are full of complete crap. I mean, it's not true. Everyone has a brain. They can think about anything at any time. I mean, people go to the bathroom, they're human beings. I mean, even if you allowed yourself to think about what they're creating while they're going to the bathroom, you have 5 minutes to think about what you're creating in a day. Uh, Time conversations are truly intimacy conversations. So those types of people don't want to have that level of intimacy with themselves,
Mm.
that level of intimacy with other people. It's a way to put a shield between you and something else. It's a way to protect yourself, and it's a way to not get vulnerable. Vulnerable When people get vulnerable, they get scared because they think they're going to get hurt, and they think it's a weakness and all of that stuff. It's not. If anything, vulnerability really truly supports you with strength, because that is where your strength is. So the people that are terrified of being vulnerable and exposing that, uh, until you get to the point where you're vulnerable in front of everyone and you can do it, you're actually you're not strong. You're just pretending to be. So hiding it isn't going to do you any good. So put yourself in positions where you're vulnerable and you're exposing that so that you can heal from that, and and then that's how you garnish real confidence. Until then, it won't happen. Right.
Mm.
Until then, you're just pretending.
So good, Guru. And in terms of helping people cast a vision, what are some tools, maybe that you give to your clients that maybe they're not clear on their visions? Like, what do you have them do? I don't want to say like homework, but like exercises that they can do to create that.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess part of what I ask them right at the get go is, so what are you passionate about? What makes you happy? And it's a pretty big warning sign if you ask somebody that question and they don't have an answer. Like, I don't know. Nothing makes me happy. I don't have anything that I feel like is fun. I forgot what joy is. I forgot what having fun is. It's like, okay, well, the very first thing you get to do is figure out what makes you happy, and experiment. And those are the type of people that don't know how to unplug. Those are the type of people that work really, really hard, and work is their life, and they don't have anything else. You know, their life is their phone. Those are the type of people that will work 6 to 7 days a week and will go home, and they're usually single. They'll fall asleep on their couch when they're eating pizza or something like that. And they won't, they don't, they haven't learned how to connect with other people. So, and it happens all the time. A lot of people will do that instead of true connection, or finding relationships, or because that's what they know. And there's so many different reasons why it happens. So many different reasons why. But for those types of people, you got to start off with, okay, so let's do some stuff for yourself. Let's figure out what you get to do in order to make some time just for you so that you can spend some time in the quiet. I challenge you to get bored. You know, don't reach out for your phone and check your work emails. You know, what are you going to do today where you're just doing something for yourself? Even if that something is nothing, you know,
Mm.
just sitting, meditating, drinking a cup of tea while you're looking outside the window. Allow your brain to slow down so it can tell you everything that's going on with you, so you can start to process all the stuff that you've been avoiding your whole life because you haven't given yourself a chance to sit in the quiet. So it's depending on the person. It's about teaching them how to slow down their minds, giving them moments of quiet and silence and solitude, uh, and giving them moments of also cultivating acts of self love towards themselves, whatever that looks like. It's going to be individual. And then finally, helping them discover what's going to bring them joy, because those people don't have a clue. They don't know because they haven't been doing it. And it's really important to discover that so that you can understand who you are.
I think it's so important, in terms of practicing, putting that to practice, you guys, and taking that first step. And so sometimes something like that can be overwhelming if you're not in it or used to doing that, and then that becomes a daily practice of what you said, Guru, is like taking time to reflect, like, not just in the morning but in the evening hours. So many times people tune out, they're watching their shows or they're glued to their cell phones, and it's a great time to connect with self, connect with their family, connect with your loved ones, to their partners, all the above, to have those check-ins, and it's so healthy to do that. So, but yeah, that's we just wanted to touch on, the vision part, you guys. I think vision is key to anything that you're trying to create here in the earthy life that we all have, and it's been a pleasure. Episode 17 with you guys. We don't, do any commercials or things of that nature. Just all we ask is if this really touched you and really has supported you, that you share it with a friend, a family member, a loved one. Maybe you share it watching it with your partner, casting a vision together, or maybe someone at work that has fired you up to share this with them. So, but I'll hand it over to Guru on where you could find her. I know we have some community events on the horizon here locally if you're in Orange County or know anybody. So I'll hand it over back to her.
All right. I love talking to you all. I'm so grateful that you decided to hang out with us and listen to our episode. I hope you got a lot out of it. I hope that you will also bless us with some questions that you might have so that we can support you further. We really want to do everything we can to support our community, and we love you very much. And we're doing this for you, so I hope that you will reach out and let us know how we can support you. You can do that by leaving a comment below or messaging me directly. However you want to do it is cool. Let's just make it happen. Other than that, can't wait to see you in episode 18. If you're watching this as a recording, awesome. Just flip on through to the next video and hopefully you get something out of it. If you watched it live with us today, we're so blessed and grateful that you joined us. Do not be afraid to leave a question in the comments so that we can support you in the future. We love you. Until next time, namaste. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
Love you all. Have a great week. See you next week.